Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the ROS Media channel. We are today going to be going into our Saturday 18th webinar Q&A. In terms of what we discussed on the webinar, I think after that Saturday, it's pretty clear that as the system evolves and it pushes towards this global agenda, our strategies must sharpen, and they are sharpening. Many of you on the questions that you put in expressed some concerns about the shift from peaceful discharge to a proactive stance in the US courts. And we want to make sure that you understand what that is all about, because we are all about a peaceful exit. We're not all about being combative and fighting the system, but taking a proactive stance is not necessarily fighting. So today we're going to address those concerns. We're going to go through all the questions. We'll leave nothing on the table. I want today, and I'm sure Ian does too, to be about clarity. So you've got the necessary confidence to move forwards if you haven't began your journey with us. And for those who have, we want you to know that this stuff works and that we will deliver. So Ian, great to have you back. Let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
So in terms of the questions, the first set of questions from Saturday that we've got is really to do with this shift away or shift into the US courts that you've mentioned. And the first question that we've got is, has the mortgage discharge process recently changed from a peaceful fiat settlement to a proactive New York court case using AI-drawn legal papers?
No, it hasn't shifted. It's an additional option. So for those who want to discharge their mortgages, I'm giving them another option. If they want to discharge their mortgage and start working on that directly, maybe there's a reason why they want to discharge it, because they're struggling with their budget. We've been talking a lot about the cost of living crisis. So if people are struggling because they're having to fund their mortgage and it's a predominant cost, and that means that they can't finance other things, then this is an option to void the mortgage, because the peaceful way of doing it is the recoupment of the signature credit that created the mortgage, or the signature credit recoupment of other signature credit, bank payments, loans, other mortgages, etc. But we know that from A through Z, that can take 9 months. So for those people who want to void their mortgage within that time frame, this is the option that I'm providing. And also the other reason why I'm doing it is because there are millions of mortgages in existence in the world, and we need to build our membership up. We need to recruit new members. So I think one of the things that I'm observing quite regularly on our webinars is that a lot of the members don't have a comprehension that we need to expand our membership. We can't just work with the number of members we've got now and stay with that number, because we need new members coming in to achieve our objectives. So how do you attract new members to come to you? You give them solutions that they may or may not be attracted to. One of those solutions is to void the mortgage within 9 months, which is the peaceful way of doing it. But this solution includes the peaceful exit as well. So this is a system of establishing, using the law, a void mortgage outcome, but also recouping signature credit from all of the other every other signature that's been used to create other credit from the age of 18. So it actually is two things rolled into one. It's not void mortgage and not do signature credit. It's void mortgage and signature credit. So it's two solutions in one. And if people don't want to do this, of course, they can just choose to do the peaceful exit, the peaceful way of discharging the mortgage, and not get involved in this process at all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it replaces what we've already presented a few months ago. It's an additional option for those who want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, this is what would buy them some breathing space, isn't it? While recoupment comes in, that's the goal with that. So,
yeah, there's a lot of people out there, and I know this for sure because when we first started, we did mortgage free, and we were flooded with people that wanted to void their mortgages for all sorts of reasons. I'll give you 3 reasons, Andy, just so that the audience can understand this, right? Some people have got an interest-only mortgage and the term has come to the end. And they have no other option apart from discharging the mortgage, or they go straight into mortgage foreclosure.
yeah.
Even if they've been funding the mortgage all the way through. At the end of the term, the mortgage provider says, pay us back or we'll put you into mortgage foreclosure, into property foreclosure. So in that scenario, you don't want to wait for 9 months for the signature credit recoupment to come in.
No.
Because you're going to be evicted before you get to that 9-month point. So that's one reason. Another reason is that people don't have the budget to finance their mortgage installment every month because they're struggling. So they might decide that they want to go down this pathway to remove that cost, the mortgage cost, once the mortgage has been voided, because it gives them relief whilst they're waiting for their signature credit to come in. So that's the second reason. The third reason is that some people are in arrears. So they're not in mortgage foreclosure yet, but they are in arrears on their mortgage. And arrears on a mortgage leads to mortgage foreclosure after a while.
Yeah.
So if people are in arrears because of the cost of living crisis, this is a solution that can intervene, that can set the record straight, can void the mortgage, and whilst it's going on, there's little risk of the foreclosure event that might be looming down the pathway. So this is a solution for people, many people in different categories. It absolutely isn't replacing the peaceful way to discharge the mortgage. But I got feedback from the members who said, some of them said, can't wait for 9 months in. I want to do this now.
Yeah.
I need to do it now. I can't wait for 9 months. So that's why I've introduced this for 2 reasons. One is because many people need it now, or they need to start it now. They need to get it rolling now. And the other reason is because we need to recruit new members. And many people want to void their mortgage, even if they're funding it every month and don't have a problem funding it. They just want to void it because they've learned that the mortgage provider never provided them with a loan. So they don't like it. They don't want to keep funding the mortgage when they know that the mortgage provider didn't lend them anything in the first place.
Yeah,
a lot of people are very upset. They're upset by that. So
yeah,
there's many reasons why people would want to void a mortgage. And when we were doing mortgage free, and we tried that, and we tried a number of different options there, we got a lot of interest. There's a huge level of interest in people who wanted to void their mortgage.
Yeah.
So if we're looking to recruit new members and they're not already with us, they might be attracted to a void mortgage option if that's what they're looking for. It's like I said yesterday on our meeting, Andy, if people are walking up and down the high street and our shop says you can void your mortgage, they might come in. They might not. They might not be interested in voiding the mortgage, but they might come in and join our community. So it's just another way of recruiting people.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay, moving on to the next question, Ian. This is really to do with the shift in terms of CBDCs. And the question here is, if the banking system switches to gold-backed CBDCs, or if the Secretary of Treasury warns citizens to withdraw cash, will recoupments from the IRS still be accessible? There's a definite knowledge gap here, even just on the fundamentals of how recoupment works, I think, and how money works.
I will publish a paper on this soon because this question keeps coming up.
It does, doesn't it? I think people think there's this big pot of money and we're dipping into the same pot of money as everybody else is. And if everybody pulls their money out, there's nothing left for recoupment. That's kind of how it appears to me.
I think because of the programming that we've all been subjected to this programming and a lot of assumptions and a lot of people adding 2 and 2 together and making 7, because they don't really have enough information. They've never really looked into it. They hear sound bites from the politicians and the people in the media, and then they're getting involved in ideology groups that have got certain beliefs about how things work. There's so much misinformation out there. It's staggering to me how much misinformation there is, and it's also more staggering how many people look into things and don't really stress test what they're looking into. They don't really research it. They just take it at face value and accept it to be true, and that, of course, is where people's problems can flow from that misunderstanding. They can get themselves into very deep trouble because they go down pathways that are never going to work. Now, the question is a very good question because it helps people to understand what's really going on here. The paper I'm probably going to publish, because this question's come up a few times, is how does the world system work? Because people seem to believe that somehow there's lots of systems all running in parallel.
Yeah.
And you can elect not to be involved in the dollar system. You can go off and do the BRICS, or you can go off and be involved in cryptocurrency, or you can be involved in some alternative, payment system. The reality of it is, it all comes back to the dollar, because the dollar is the world reserve currency.
Yeah.
And so unless the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, everything is back to dollars. No matter what it says on the news about the BRICS and what it says about CBDCs and stable coins and all of these different things that people talk about, everything is balanced back to the dollar. If our membership could comprehend that every signature is being tracked and traced by the IRMF system, the IRS's system, if they can get their comprehension of that it literally tracks everybody's signature every moment of every day. That is a worldwide tracking system. It's already in place. And a lot of people aren't realizing this. They're thinking that there's all these different systems that are operating independently of each other. They're not. It's all one system.
Yeah.
There's an illusion another illusion of I'm in Canada, I'm in Australia, I'm not in the US, and I'm looking at the Russians are teaming up with the Chinese to bring out their own currency, and maybe cryptocurrency is going to operate individually, independently of the dollar. Well, how do you buy cryptocurrency?
Exactly. Everything's pegged to the dollar, isn't it? To assign it a quote unquote value. How much is your Bitcoin worth? How much is your XRP worth? It all has a dollar value assigned to it, doesn't it?
This is what a lot of people are not comprehending. 1933, the United States went into bankruptcy. And if you weren't in the United States and you knew that's what was going on, you might think, well, what difference does that make to me? Well, you didn't realize that all the banking in the background was linked to the dollar. Yeah. So even though you're banking in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the Caribbean islands, your banking is now being linked to the United States because it's the world reserve currency. So even though you may be transacting in other currencies, it's all balanced back to the dollar.
Yeah.
As we've evidenced by, if somebody makes a transaction in Australia, their clearing bank is going to be selling that as a security to investment banks somewhere, maybe in Australia, and those investment banks then work with the New York investment banks. It all comes back to America, comes back to the United States.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people are not seeing. They're seeing the local transaction, and they're not realizing that it's all in the background, behind the curtain. It's all being linked to the dollar because it's the world reserve currency. If you read the International Monetary Fund reports, they talk about the dollar. This is one of the reasons why the United States is so arrogant. It's why they have the biggest military. If you really want to get into the reason, it's because they want to protect the dollar. They have the biggest military on the planet because they're protecting the dollar. That's what it's about. They're protecting the control system.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that report. I think that's going to give some clarity to people just so they can understand how this actually works. Let's move on to the next question. Is it possible for the rules of the system to be changed by the authorities to stop the correction of the ledger?
No, I've looked into this in great detail because, many people have said over the last 2-3 years, Ian, it's, you've come up with a genius solution here, but they can just stop it in a heartbeat. Well, I'm going to counter that with, we all need air to breathe, right?
Yep.
Unless we're an alien and we don't need any air, we need something else. So it's like saying we're going to take the air away. The whole banking system works on signature credit. Every government that is raising finance, creating ex nihilo credit through, creating bonds between the central bank and the treasury of the country, every single new bit of currency that goes on the monopoly board is created from the signature, from the energy of the people. That's it, bottom line. As they say, all roads lead back to Rome. In that saying, in the money system, all roads lead back to the United States dollar, the bankruptcy of the United States Treasury. There is no separate system running in parallel. Even if you were in Beijing and you're doing transactions in Beijing, your transactions are being balanced back to the dollar.
Yeah. Okay.
I was listening to a story on a news channel I listen to. Can you pause the video, Andy, please?
Sure.
Thanks, mate.
Oh, I can't. It's live streaming.
Oh, is it? Okay, it's all right.
Yeah.
So I've got somebody walking behind me. So it's just
okay.
They're not realizing that I'm on camera. So
not to worry.
There was a story on the news yesterday on some alternative channels that I listened to, and there are Chinese banks being sanctioned by the United States, being threatened with sanctions.
How could they do that?
Chinese banks operating in China who are being threatened by the United States that if they don't do what the United States wants, they will withdraw their banking support.
What does that tell you?
What does that tell you?
Mm.
It tells you everything's linked to the dollar. This is why Trump is so arrogant, because the world system is the dollar system. That's why they operate the way they do, because they've got control of the money system. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Right, moving on. The next question, and we've kind of answered this at the beginning about the two options here, and that we've got the recoupment side of things, and we've obviously got the court side of things that can be done at the same time if people want that. This particular question is: can members still expect a discharge that avoids direct confrontation with the system, or is legal action now a mandatory requirement for success? Let's just clarify that one more time.
So the old way of voiding a mortgage, people would try and go into a battle, into a war with the mortgage provider. So what they, in the old way of doing it, and many people have tried this in all different ways, they go into a battle with the mortgage provider. They make a complaint to the mortgage provider. My mortgage is fraud. You didn't lend me any money. It's a typical argument that people send in that gets rebutted straight away. Or they take up a case against the banks. And I've read many of these cases, right, in all different countries. They go into court and they put forward a presentment to the judge that the bank didn't lend any money. There's no wet ink signature on the contract. The bank securitized the loan, the mortgage, and sold it. So therefore, the mortgage provider no longer is a lender of anything. All these different ways that people have argued, either with the bank's own compliance department, or complaints department, or with a court. Yeah. And it always ends up the same way. Every single time. There is a common theme in every single one. And I have looked at a lot of them. And we tried a lot in the past, right? Yeah. The courts, as I said on the webinar, don't care about how the money was created, about securitization, about the registration gap. They don't care that there's a signature or not a signature on the mortgage contract. They don't care about any of those things. All they care about is simple. Is there a charge against this property in favor of the mortgage provider? Yeah. If there is, you've got to pay. And if you don't, you're going to be in foreclosure. Yeah. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter what argument you take in the courtroom, you're going to end up in that at that point where the judge is eventually going to say, I've listened to all of your arguments, I've listened to all of your presentments, and they might all be true, but it doesn't matter because there's a charge against the property. So what we're doing here is we're not trying to go to war in a battle that you're never going to lose. So you're never going to win. Yeah. You're always going to lose it. So in the art of legal warfare, you don't go to war or you don't go into battle unless you've already won the battle or the war. You simply don't do it. It's fundamental. Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War thousands of years ago, is absolutely next level genius when it comes to conflict. So you don't go in to try and void your mortgage unless it's already been voided. Yeah. You've already won the battle. So how do you do that? You create a grantor trust that files 1099 OID, which changes the creditor position to the grantor trust, takes the mortgage provider and the investment bank that's holding that security, they become by default the debtors. So they no longer have any standing. The mortgage provider no longer has standing to keep that charge over the property. Because at the top of the ledger, the mortgage has been proven, because of the change in status and standing of who the creditor is and who the debtor is, it's been changed up above any local court. Yep. You've changed it at the IRS. The centre, the bankruptcy trustee, is now in their records showing, bankruptcy trustee meaning the United States Treasury, is now showing that the grantor trust is the holder in due course, is the creditor of this particular mortgage. And you've got a securitization and holder in due course forensic report that proves that. Yeah. And that is what you take to New York. You don't go to New York arguing about the bank didn't lend me any money and there's no wet ink signature on the contract or anything of that nature. You go to the court with proof and evidence that the mortgage the creditor position is now in the grantor trust, holds that creditor position. So you've already won. You've won the argument before you've even had it. Yep. So unless the New York court completely railroads it, which is very, very difficult for them to do that because the facts and evidence are in the forensic report. So unless it's railroaded, that is now, the battle is now being won.
Yeah.
Then you take that winning hand back to the local, back to the mortgage provider, and you provide evidence to them that the mortgage has been discharged at the top of the ledger. And you've got the evidence of it happening. So you're now not making a complaint saying you didn't lend me any money, I didn't sign a contract, there's a registration gap. You're presenting to the mortgage provider that the mortgage has been discharged and the creditor position is now with the International Grantor Trust. So how are they going to defeat that?
Well, they can't.
No, because the facts reveal that that's exactly the position that the mortgage holder is in.
Yeah.
Now, they might deny it, and they might say we don't believe you, and they might make up excuses. But if that were to go to court, which it may need to, if the mortgage provider is going to deny the reality and the truth and proof without any doubt at all, the proof is there in black and white. If they were to do that, then every single court would have to railroad the truth on record.
Yeah.
On record. All of these court cases are recorded. A lot of people don't realize this.
I know.
If you go to Bailey, every single court case, unless it's been scrubbed from the record, is recorded. Because the lawyers and the barristers and the King's counsels, they learn from all of the previous cases. So unless it's completely railroaded and is scrubbed from the record locally, every single one of these scrubbed from the record, no record of it at all, they're going to have to uphold the law.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have to avoid taking the case if it were to go to court in the local area. But it shouldn't need to go to court because it's been discharged at the top of the ledger.
Very powerful, very elegant, I feel. Okay, let's move on to the next section, Ian. And the next section is really to do with the envoy protocol in most. Questions about jurisdiction, questions about how should an envoy respond in certain cases. So this identity move, this identity shift, the first question here is to do with jury service and jurisdiction. How should an ROS envoy respond to a UK Crown Court jury summons when a request to be excused as a ministerial ambassador has been rejected?
Well, what a good question. That is, it's a really good question because I think a lot of our members are looking at the envoy protocol because they're reading and they're being misled by other groups out there who say that you can change your status.
Yeah.
That you can become like a state national, or you can become, you can completely separate yourself from the birth certificate construct. The envoy protocol doesn't do that. The envoy protocol establishes the office of the general executor. The birth certificate construct is a decedent estate. At the moment, the living man woman is operating the birth certificate construct, which is this decedent estate, as the executor de son tort, which means the executor of all the wrongs.
Yep.
So you're the agent for a principal. The principal is the birth certificate construct. The living man woman is the agent, and the agent is operating the principal, and the principal is using the name of the birth certificate construct, the name on the birth certificate, the surname, family name, as if it were them. It's called holding out in the law.
Yeah.
You're holding out that you are something that you're not.
Yep.
So the envoy protocol corrects the record, but it doesn't change the nature of the agency. It
No.
doesn't remove the agency between the living man, woman, and the birth certificate construct. All it does is cleans the record up. It's a declaration to clean up the record. Clausula rebus sextantibus is a declaration that in the past, the use of that name was a mistake.
Yeah.
The use of that name going forward is now on the basis that the general executor, the office of the general executor, the living man, woman is occupying the office of the general executor over the decedent estate. That is now basically it's elevated its status, and it's also an envoy for the Republic of Old Souls. Now, does that mean that the jury service, which is the jury service, is for the birth certificate construct because it's on the Monopoly Board? Anything to do with any jury, court case, bank account, everything's on that Monopoly Board, that artificial Monopoly Board. So the living man, woman is now is occupying the office of general executor over the decedent estate. The decedent estate is the person, the birth certificate construct, that can go into court. So a lot of people have formed a belief because they've read other people's papers that you cannot now represent the birth certificate construct.
Yeah.
You can, you have to. How do you operate on the Monopoly Board if you're not? What you're doing is you've cleaned the record up and you're putting new pieces on the Monopoly Board that you can use for your recoupments and your private treasury. So that's what you're doing. You're not trying to remove the birth certificate construct from the Monopoly Board, and you're not trying to deny that you're connected to it. You can't. You can't get rid of the agency. It's there whether you like it or not. It's just a feature of how it's been set up.
Well, if you could get rid of the agency, you wouldn't be able to do recoupment, would you?
Well, if you got rid of it, if you were able to, and I've never seen anybody achieve it, if you were able to, then you wouldn't have any right to recoup signature credit from the age of 18, because what you're really saying is the living man, woman is transferred their energy onto the Monopoly Board through the birth certificate construct, and now I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Because I want to correct my status so that I'm no longer the living man connected to that birth certificate construct.
Yeah.
Even if you could achieve it, which I've never seen anybody pull that off. But if you did pull it off somehow, now you've just given away all your signature credit from the age of 18. Because you've got no entitlement to it.
And trust me, you don't want to do that, because we're going to be talking about that on Saturday. Ian and I are going to be doing a webinar this Saturday, all to do with the signature credit recoupment going back to the age of 18, in conjunction with 2 other of our protocols. This is the flagship for everybody. So look out for that one. We'll talk about that at the end today. Okay, so let's move on to the next question then. Beyond the IRS, which agencies, DMV, SSA, Treasury, Birth State, which agencies must receive a declaration that the individual is alive and the corporation has no agency? Again, misunderstanding. Knowledge gap.
Yeah. The declaration of envoy status just needs to be made to let's just say senior figures of the government in the country you're in. It doesn't really matter who they are. You just have to put it, you just have to make that declaration. If you think of it, as I've mentioned before, when Germany wanted to invade Poland and the British declared war, they just declared it and everybody knew that it had been declared. They didn't have to keep on declaring it. They just did it once. And that's what you're doing with the notice. You're just making a declaration. It goes to the Secretary of State. It goes to some other high profile members of the government. That's it. Now, in next month, they might have left the government and gone off and done something else, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to keep on making the declaration every time somebody leaves the office. because the office doesn't go away.
No.
The office of Prime Minister doesn't go away.
No.
Prime Ministers come and go. The office of President doesn't go away. Presidents come and go. So you've made a declaration to an office. So this is what a lot of people aren't realizing.
Yeah.
When you write to a public official, you're not actually writing to the man or the woman. You're writing to the office of the Secretary of State, the office of the Prime Minister, the office of the King. Yeah. Every public official has an office. We've all have an office. Every man and woman on the planet has an office, because the office sits above the birth certificate construct on the Monopoly board.
Yeah.
So you're writing to the office. You're not writing to the man, the woman. You're writing to the office, and that is a declaration. It's like the British declaring war on Germany. They are writing to the office of the state of Germany, or they're making a declaration to the state of Germany. You don't have to write to all the politicians and keep writing to them every time they come and go. You've just made a declaration. That's it. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Excellent. Right. Let me look at this question very quickly before I read it out, because again, I think there's a knowledge gap here. Right. Okay. I'm going to read this anyway, Ian, because I think we need to clear some of these things up too. It says, for those already deep into the I Am Free program, which, as we know, is no longer available. For those already deep in the IAF program, is the Envoy protocol still a required step for total sovereignty?
It's a complementary part of the three foundational protocols that we're offering: Envoy, Asset Fortress, and Currency Creation. It complements that, and it complements if you're going to do a void mortgage process, it complements the void mortgage process. It's got really nothing to do with I Am Free. I Am Free is no longer, that's been withdrawn for lots of reasons, because what we're doing now is so much more powerful than anything that we've ever done in the past. So that, we need to move on from the past. We've evolved to what we're doing now, and the remedies that we have available now work together. There is a synergy.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what's going on in the past. The synergy of what we're offering now is way more powerful than anything that people have already done from the past.
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next section. And this is a little bit more about education on the protocols themselves, just the mechanics. So the first question, and this is a great one. This is to do with LLCs and entities. It says, does signature credit from limited company activity qualify for recoupment? And can a US-based LLC be utilized within the Republic of Old Souls?
So there's two parts to that question. The first part is any signature qualifies for credit, signature credit recoupment.
Yep.
Whether the signature is is the signature of a shareholder of a LLC, whether it's a limited, any kind of construct, commercial construct. Yep. The signature is the signature. It doesn't matter whether it's a bank account connected to the artificial construct. It doesn't matter whether it's a bank account connected to a business of some sort, some kind of a company. The signature is the signature.
Yeah.
That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is in relation to whether what we're doing, whether you need to bring things into it. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to ask, Ian. Can a US-based LLC be utilized within the Republic of Old Souls? So maybe if they're wanting to be part of the nation as an envoy, and they've got
Yeah.
their asset fortress, can they bring an LLC into that structure? That's kind of how I read it.
So I wrote a research paper on this recently, because some people have got an LLC, or they've got a limited partnership, or they've got a standard limited company, and they want to keep that because they've got they've got some kind of export license, or they've got some kind of tax advantage like VAT, or some kind of tax framework that they want to keep. So how would you integrate that with the if you're looking at the Commerce Protocol, for example? If presumably these people are in business, if they've got an LLC, they can use their LLC to invoice their customers, receive the fees, however they get paid now, and then the LLC can make donations to the 508c1a ministry, which is integral with the Commerce Protocol. And that's a donation. It's a tax relievable event, a donation. And that means that the LLC is still operating on the Monopoly Board, doing whatever it's doing now, doesn't have to change. It just makes donations to the 508c1a ministry, which is a component of the Commerce Protocol. Now that can then move from there into the recoupments, into the asset fortress. So you can keep the LLC if there's some very good reason to keep it, but you can't bring it inside the Envoy protocol or the Commerce Protocol, because it's a standalone piece in its own right. But it can make donations, and donations to a ministry, 100% of the donation can be set off against taxes.
So they can essentially make their LLC completely non-profit generating, therefore no tax, and everything goes into the ministry, and then that goes into your asset fortress. They
can if they make $1 million in revenue, they can, and they've got 200,000 or 500,000 of costs, leaving them with 500,000 of profit. They can make 500,000 donation to the to the 508c1a, which is the ministry, their ministry as part of the Commerce Protocol. And now they've wiped out their entire tax base. Or the other way of doing it is every dollar they collect in their LLC, they pay it to the ministry as a donation, and then they get the Asset Fortress Protocol to finance all of their costs, which can then that's signature credit, and then they recoup those costs back to the back in the circle, in the loop, back to the Asset Fortress Protocol. There's two ways to do it.
Well, that latter one would be a better way to do it in reality, because you're creating more signature credit recoupment doing it that way, aren't you? If you're moving revenue as opposed to just profit.
Yeah. I mean, now you've got your entire business overhead coming out of the Asset Fortress Protocol, which can all be recouped as signature credit. I mean, it could be in the LLC as well. There is a way of doing it in the LLC, but without knowing the circumstances, it's difficult to say. But generically, you can keep an LLC and use that exactly as you are now, and then just make that LLC make donations to the 508c1a as part of the Commerce Protocol.
Very elegant. I like that. Okay, next question, Ian, is to do with commercial mortgage discharge. Is it possible to void or discharge a commercial or semi-commercial mortgage worth approximately £1 million?
Yeah, mortgages are mortgages. You know, they're different types of mortgage, but the principle of how the credit was created, the principle of creating a grant or trust, filing 1099 OID, correcting who is the creditor at the top of the record to the grant or trust. It doesn't matter whether the mortgage is commercial, semi-commercial, residential. Mortgages are mortgages. The investment banks still trade the mortgage securities in the same way. They're all cars. They're just different types of cars, basically, in my analogy.
Okay. Next question to do with mortgages. If a mortgage is held by two people, can it be voided if only one person chooses to action the protocol. We've had this before.
Yeah. So, you know, there is a joint and several liability in a marriage. That's why a marriage is a contract.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry to be unromantic, but marriages are just contracts. They're just commercial contracts, right?
Yeah.
Between two body corporate birth certificate constructs that come together in one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's jointly and severally liable, right? So the husband is liable for the wife is liable for the husband. In a business, the shareholders are liable to each other.
Yep.
You might have 50 shareholders. They're all liable to each other in the same way as a marriage, the husband and wife are liable to each other. So if one of the members that wants to do this wants to void the mortgage and the other one doesn't want to do it, the signature credit that created the mortgage is going to go back to the grantor trust of the one that did want to do this, that does want to do this process.
Yeah.
And that is going to change the ledger. It doesn't need both parties to file 1099 OID. And the reason why is because it's the grantor trust that is filing the 1099 OID, not the birth certificate constructs or the living men and women.
Yeah.
So you don't need to get your partner's buy-in on this to do it.
No, you can't 50% void a mortgage, can you? You either void it or you don't.
It's either voided or it's not. It's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Next question. To do with this 3x logic. In redeeming mortgages, is it true that 3 times the face value can be claimed?
Well, the 1099 OID is making a claim of the taxes. So if you claim more than, in reality, the original issue discount, which is the face value of the mortgage, I've seen people recoup more than the face value of a mortgage. In my opinion, I wouldn't do it myself. I would only want to recoup the face value of the amount of signature credit I've put on the board. I wouldn't want to multiply it up.
Yeah.
Because even though it probably will go through the system, I just don't think it's an honourable thing to do.
No.
You're recouping more energy than you've put on the board. And I just don't think that's an honourable thing to do.
Okay.
So, the answer is yes, you could do it. And it probably would go through. But I don't advocate it.
Right. So just to be clear for the members then, it's not let's say I had a mortgage and it was 100,000 and I put my recoupment through for 100,000. Are we saying, because I think there's been some muddy waters here with members thinking that if I put my claim in for the face value of the mortgage and then the IRS potentially could be sending me back up to 3 times the value of what I originally filed. Is that not how that works then? What you're saying is you would manually have to.
Let me explain it. Yeah. Right, let me explain it so it's clearer, right? The IRS knows exactly how much signature credit everybody has put on the monopoly board. So that's a fact. It's a realization that will probably surprise a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
In their IRMF system, they know exactly how much credit is being put on the board for everyone. So if you're trying to recoup a mortgage and the mortgage is $100,000 face value and you're putting in a claim for $300,000, the IRMF system is going to say, has that signature, the provider of that signature, the living man, woman, put more than 300,000 on the board overall in all signatures?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, you're not going to get 300,000 recoupment.
No.
But if the answer is they put 3 million on the board and they're trying to recoup 300,000 on a 100,000 mortgage, then it's going to go through.
Yeah.
You see, recouping signature credit from the age of 18 is an estimate, a conservative estimate of how much signature credit has been put on the board in each bank account, from each mortgage, loan, credit card, without going over the top, because the IRS knows.
Yeah. And
then what you're doing is you're bringing all of that signature credit into 1 year, and you're recouping it in 1 year, in one tax year. The system already knows what the limit is, what your budget is, basically.
Yeah.
So if people are only recouping one mortgage and they've had 10 mortgages, then they could multiply that one mortgage recoupment up by 3, and it would go through.
Yeah, quite easily. Yeah,
because there's plenty of budget left. That is what's going on here. Where people are looking at their mortgage, they're forgetting their bank payments, they're forgetting their credit cards, loans, or there may be the deductions from wages that they had. They're forgetting all the other signature credit that they put on the board, because they're looking at just the mortgage, where I'm looking at everything that's been put on the board.
As a total. Yeah.
The entirety of the signature credit from the age of 18.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about this on Saturday, guys, because this makes it so simple, as opposed to figuring out, I had 10 mortgages and I need to put 10 applications in for each one. A way more powerful, simplistic way of doing this that we're going to talk about on Saturday. Okay, let's move on to the next one, Ian. When transferring large sums, brackets, millions, to discharge a debt, how are the funds routed to prevent blocks by lenders citing money laundering or suspicious sources? So I'm guessing this is kind of post-recoupment. I've got my recoupment. It's now in my asset fortress, and I now want to discharge that mortgage and just get it out the way. I want to pay it off, whatever you want to call it.
So the peaceful exit is to recoup the signature credit, get it into the asset fortress, and then discharge all of the debt. So we're now talking about the peaceful way of doing it, not the void mortgage way, because the void mortgage way would remove the need to make a transfer from the asset fortress protocol, the trust, and discharge the mortgage, because the mortgage had already been discharged. So if people aren't doing they're not doing the void mortgage part of this process, they're just doing signature credit recoupment and then looking to discharge that way, which is obviously their prerogative. They can do it whichever way that suits their circumstances best. When you go to a mortgage provider and you ask for a redemption statement, and then you make a declaration that you have a private trust, that you are the grantor and trustee of a private trust, and you evidence that you are the grantor and trustee of a private international trust, now it's not money laundering.
No,
because the bank's going to say, evidence this private trust, and you've got evidence of the indenture. You've also got the bank account that has been set up for the asset fortress. And you've got evidence that it's not a criminal scheme, or it's not some entity that is being used for nefarious objectives. It is perfectly bona fide, it's perfectly lawful, and you can prove it. And what makes it, and a lot of people will hopefully be pleased when they realize this, is that the grantor is the player piece on the monopoly board. The person, the citizen, is the grantor and the trustee of the asset fortress. So when the bank is saying you can't pay off the mortgage because the money, let's just call it money, is not coming from you, i.e. the borrower, it's coming from the borrower's trust, because the borrower, the artificial construct, is the grantor and is the trustee of the asset fortress protocol. So it's like saying to your mortgage provider, I want a redemption statement, and they say, okay, fine. and then you say, I've got some money in this other bank account that I want to use to pay off my mortgage. And they say, well, where did you get that money from that you're using to pay off the mortgage? And you say, I got it through inheritance. I got it through savings. I got it through selling my assets. And then you answer that question, and then they're okay, because that's all they need to know is the origin of the funds and whether the structure that is paying the mortgage off is lawful. That's it. And I know about these things because I ran financial services companies for 35 years, right? So I know how this money laundering thing works.
So if somebody was asked that question, again, just to be clear for the members, because I'm trying to think how the members think here. If they are asked that question, where's the source of the money? They're not to say, well, it's Trias 310 recoupments here. That's where it's come from. That's what Ian has said it is. It's bank payment recoupments, or would you say it's inheritance? You know, how would you frame that?
I would say, look, in my exhaustive experience in financial services, if you don't tell the truth, you get found out.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything here that isn't lawful.
No.
So if the bank says, you know, your mortgage is $1 million and your trust has got $10 million sitting in it, where did that $10 million come from? It came from tax recoupment. It's exactly what it is.
Yep.
And given the fact that a bank received it from the IRS,
exactly,
isn't that good enough? Isn't that proof that it can't be nefarious? It's not a cartel bank in Colombia that is being, you know, is being run by the cartel for money laundering. It's not one of those, is it? It's a US bank. The US bank has received the recoupment and checked it out from A through Z to be legitimate. So it's going to tick the anti-money laundering box just by telling the truth. And nobody should be afraid to tell the truth about what we're doing. Because it is 100% lawful. In all of my research papers, I've put that all in there because, you know, we're not working behind the curtain here in some secret way that, you know, we can't explain what we're doing, because we can, because it's 100% lawful. Yeah.
So for all you members, don't frame it as something it's not. Be truthful. It's an A to Z process that works. We can back it up. And like Ian said, if that money's gone from the IRS to a bona fide US bank account, then that's all the validity that you need, really.
That's all you need to say is that, you know, whichever bank it is that's received the Trias 310 ACH Fedwire, whatever that bank is, it's going to be one of the major banks in the United States. Yeah. They've done all their due diligence on it. They were happy to receive it. Yeah, that's good enough for any bank, in my opinion. Any bank that's offering a mortgage, that there's verification that the receiving bank of the tax rebates had already checked it all out and was happy to receive the funds. Yeah, and if there was anything suspicious about those funds that they'd received, the US bank, they would freeze the account. Of course. Yeah. If the account isn't frozen, it's highly unlikely not to be any money laundering. Yeah. And I guess that would go for somebody if they wanted to purchase an asset, you know, purchase a car, purchase a house, you know, whatever it is that they're wanting to do, not just discharge a mortgage. If there was a high ticket item or asset that they were looking to purchase, same thing. People have been using trust, just to complete this answer. People have been using trust for centuries. Trusts have bank accounts. Yeah. And they've been spending out of their trust for centuries. There's nothing unusual about a trust being used for expenses or discharging debt. There's nothing unusual about it. No. Nothing new about the structure, just maybe new to the membership. That's all it is. Exactly right, yeah. Okay. So last question on this section, Ian, is can we explain the actual mechanics of how reclaimed energy moves from the US Treasury to a 98 series trust and then into an Asset Fortress private treasury
for daily spending? I'm guessing this might be a new person, or just could be an existing member that's not fully understanding. But what a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the money flow is that the investment bank is paying taxes on the credit energy, on the human energy that's been transferred on the monopoly board. The investment banks every year are paying taxes on their 945 tax module that relates to the use of human energy.
Yeah.
So that's a fact. It's in all my research papers, and the IRS system knows it because they have this IRMF system that tracks everything.
Yeah.
So once the grantor trust files 1099 OID with the United States Treasury, using the investment bank as the payer, or documenting the payer on the 1099 OID and the recipient as the grantor trust, the IRS system will immediately look into that. It's done in a heartbeat. It will know whether that OID is bona fide.
Yeah.
It's in my recent research report. Every single signature credit entity or entry, there is a 26-digit reference number.
Yeah.
26 digits. So you imagine a combination on your bike where you've got 26 digits to remember. That's pretty complex, yeah? Imagine the enigma.
Remember 4.
Yeah, you're gonna have to write that one down, aren't you? To remember that combination. So every single signature has a 26-digit reference number. That's how detailed the IRMF system is.
Yeah.
So it will know when the grantor trust files 1099 OID, it knows who the grantor is. This is actually a question in my recent document. It knows who the grantor is.
Yeah.
It knows that the grantor is a birth certificate construct that is connected to a living soul that put their energy onto the monopoly board. It will link all that up. It doesn't need to know the tax reference number for the person, the birth certificate construct. It doesn't need that. All it needs to know is the name of the grantor. And even if the name is changed 20 times, it will still know. Because what I'd like to get across here is that everything is tracked and traced already.
Yeah.
You know, people think that they can hide away somewhere and put their funds somewhere and the establishment doesn't know about it. They're dreaming.
Yeah.
They're just in a dream. It's not reality. People are using cryptocurrency and saying, yeah, I've got a private wallet. So if I put all my wealth in a private wallet and hide it in my safe, in my castle, they're not going to know about
storage. Yeah.
Yeah, of course they know about it, because you had to transfer it to this cold storage wallet from somewhere.
Yeah.
You trace it all the way back, follow the money, and it's going to come from a source from somewhere. And the establishment and the IRMF system is going to know about it.
Yeah.
You know, people are worried about digital ID. We've already got it, really.
Yeah,
so,
we have, in reality.
Once you realize that the IRS system knows already whether the signature credit is bona fide, the 1099 OID is filed, they will then, I think, you know, they probably do some other checks and balances on their 810 algorithm to make sure the grantor trust is bona fide, the ERO is bona fide, that's the license, the practitioner that's filing the tax return, is that license up together? There's no problem with it. They will look at the payer, they'll look at the payer's ledger, that's the 945 ledger, the tax module, they'll check that out. And then if all those ticks are all in all those boxes, then they issue the wages and tax transcript. That's the flag that tells you, now you're ready, the trust is now ready to file the 1041, which is the tax return for the trust, for the grantor trust, and give the IRS details of the bank account that you want the recoupment to be sent to. And this is what they call TRIAS 310. So the IRS have a system of distribution of tax rebate. It's called TRIAS 310. That TRIAS 310 requires bank reference numbers, ACH Fedwire reference numbers, depending on how big the recoupment of tax is. Under $1 million is ACH, over $1 million is Fedwire.
Yep.
So all of that information is filed with the 1041 by the tax preparer who's got the license, telling the IRS to send that recoupment to the grantor trust bank account. So once the Treasury's distributed the funds to the grantor trust bank account, which is under the control of Ecclesia trustees, because Ecclesia trustees is the trustee for all of the grantor trusts. Now you've got a situation where the funds are received by the grantor trust that's filed the 1099 OID, that then makes a transfer to the Asset Fortress Protocol, 100% of what's been received to the Asset Fortress Protocol, and then a donation is made to the Old Souls Nation out of that Asset Fortress private treasury bank account, which that signature credit, leaving the balance for the member to use and whatever they want to use it for, and the donation that's been made to the assets from the Asset Fortress Protocol to the Old Souls Nation is a signature credit event that can be recouped in the next tax filing in the following year. So you don't lose any donation to the Old Souls Nation. It's just all going around at this level.
You've not got diminishing recoupments year on year on year. You can recoup your donation every single year as well. So I hope that makes sense, guys. I think that's kind of wrapped that section up, Ian. Thanks for explaining that. Let's go to the next category, and this is a fun favorite of everybody's: timelines. We keep getting the questions.
Timeline for voiding a mortgage. That's difficult. It's how long's a piece of string. That's the answer to that question, right? You can estimate how long it would take to set up a grantor trust, to file 1099 OID, to make the grantor trust the holder in due course of the mortgage itself, the mortgage in question. Realistically, I would never expect that to take more than 3 months. It could be done in a couple of weeks if there was a panic, if there was a real sort of priority that needed to happen quickly. So you could comfortably say within 3 months that has happened. To then take the case to New York, where you've got a forensic research report that says that the mortgage has been discharged, that says that the perceived creditors, or the presumed creditors, that's the investment bank and the mortgage provider, are no longer the presumed creditors, because that's all they ever were. They were just operating as nominees. They were operating as trustees for the living man woman who put their energy into the mortgage in the first place to generate.
They were never the creditor. No.
So they were never ever the creditor, but they presumed themselves to be the creditor, and that was never challenged. So now there's direct proof, because the 1099 OID has been filed from the grantor trust, and the IRS's system has corrected itself. It's corrected who does this credit really belong to. It belongs to the grantor trust. The holder in due course is the grantor trust. So now no other claim of creditor status can be made. There can only be one creditor on this mortgage, and that is now the grantor trust. It's not the investment bank. It's definitely not the clearing bank that provided the mortgage. It is the grantor trust, and it's all in the forensic report. So how is the investment bank or the clearing bank that originally originated and provided the mortgage going to argue with the facts. The facts are the facts. So that's what I said earlier on, is you don't go to war unless you've already won.
Yeah.
That's Sun Tzu, right? Nobody should ever go into a battle unless they've already won it. You've got to have checkmate before you even start playing chess. That's what you're doing here.
Yeah.
You're moving your pieces around so that you've got checkmate before the opponent even sits down at the table to play.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let's talk about a couple of questions here. One question here is to do with availability of currency creation protocol. When will the currency creation protocol, i.e. recouping all signature credit back to the age of 18, be fully available for all members?
Well, just before I answer that, I didn't really answer the last question. It's between 3 and 6 months. You wrap the whole thing up. You can have 3 months to get creditor status on the grantor trust. Then you've got to work with the AI system and the avatar system to get the confirmation, get the court case ratified in New York. Then you go into your local, wherever your local area is, where the mortgage was originated, and remove it from the charging register there.
Yeah.
To actually void the mortgage, I would say is within 3 months. To remove it from the charges register can take longer.
Yeah.
And every single one is going to be different. Every tennis match is going to be a different match. But you're still playing tennis, as I say before. It's still a tennis match. You and the mortgage provider, and the match might go on for longer than you want it to. Yeah. But you're always going to win that match because you've got the trump. You've got the royal flush in your hand if you're playing poker.
Even if it goes to a tiebreaker and you're in extra time, you'll still win.
You're still going to win because you've got the proof that the mortgage has been discharged from the IRS filings. It doesn't get any more powerful than that. So between 3 and 6 months is the answer to that previous question. The current question, I think, is how long does it take for currency creation? Is that, can you repeat the question?
No, it's when will the currency creation protocol, i.e. recouping all signature credit back to the age of 18, when will that be fully available for all members?
From this weekend onwards. So if you're watching this as a recording, what are we now on, the 22nd of April?
21st of April. So by the 25th of April,
we're making it available from then, because the next webinar is all about the rolling out the what I've called the Monopoly Game Changer.
Yep. And that's going to be Ian and myself, not Ian and Sims. I'm going to be doing that one with Ian this coming Saturday, just in case you're wondering why Sims isn't there. Just to put that one in there. Okay. So another question about sabotage. Were OID filings made in late 2025 affected by the recent sabotage? And if so, when will these be refiled?
So any OID filings that were done with the original batch of international grantor trusts have all been cancelled.
Yep.
Because even though we tried to replace the original trustees with Ecclesia Trustee or ROS Ecclesiastical Trust, the IRS wouldn't do it. Because there is a federal investigation into those grantor trusts, not because of anything untoward with the trust, but because the trustees, the ex-trustees, filed the fraud identity reports again, saying that they were never bona fide trustees of those grantor trusts, which is ridiculous because they all were, and they all knew they were.
Yep.
It's documented, and they absolutely knew they were the trustees, but they filed fraud identity reports alleging that they had been put in as a trustee of all these grantor trusts without their own knowledge.
Yeah.
Which is just ludicrous, isn't it?
So if that's the case and they've all been cancelled, the next part of that question was, when will refiling take place, or when will they be refiled?
It's happening now. It's going on right now.
Yeah.
It's ongoing. So that everybody can understand this, you can't just file 1099 OID. You have to have a grantor trust. You have to set it up. It can take even in a very efficient period for the IRS, it can still take up to a month to get the grantor trust. Sometimes you get it within a few days. Sometimes it's a week. Often it's a month. Sometimes you have to apply for it 3 times because the IRS sends it back with all the wrong credentials.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep on doing it, right? So that is where most of the delay occurs. It's not that we sit on our hands and don't do anything. Nothing could be further from the truth.
No.
It is the IRS system. It's a manual system. There is nothing electronic about this system of getting a grantor trust. No. They've made it difficult and long-winded so that people don't do it.
Because they know how powerful it is.
Because they know how powerful it is. That's why it's a manual system. Because the people who don't understand the difference between a 98 grantor trust and a regular domestic trust, just a standalone trust that you can set up with the IRS, would probably say, oh, well, I'll just go and do it electronically and get my trust EIN number, a domestic US trust, because I can get that online. I can get it now, I can get it within a few moments of typing the details in, push a button, and it gives me the EIN number.
Yep.
And it sends you out a confirmation. But you can't do that with an international grantor trust.
No. Because
you have to apply by telephone or by fax. There is no other way of getting them.
Yeah.
So that should tell you a lot. They make it
There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Okay. All right. Final question when it comes to timelines. And I know we've had this before, but in trueness of form, we said that we would answer all of your questions that you put down for the webinar. So what is the current status and anticipated guide for 22 through to 25 recoupment cycles?
What is the realistic time frame for payouts, for actual receipt of recoupments? Is that
for receipt of 2022 through 2025 recoupment cycles?
Well, that depends on when the 1099 OID is filed. So there isn't. You see, these questions reveal that the members really still not understanding this, right?
No.
We haven't got 3,000 trusts that all file a 1099 OID at the same time.
No.
If you imagine that there is a huge factory and some things are partially completed and other things are just starting.
Yeah.
And some things are ready to put in the box. So if you were to ask the question to the factory owner, when is everything in your factory going to be ready? He might say, or she might say, well, there's certain things which are going to come out of our process within the next few months. And there's certain things that we've only just started working on that are going to be a few months after that.
Yeah.
But not everything's going to come out at the same time.
No.
They're all going to, like they did in 2025. And this really answers the question. In 2025, the very first wages and tax transcript came in June of 2025.
Yeah.
We didn't get 3,000 of them on the same day.
No.
They came in dribs and drabs.
Yeah.
So it's like that. That's because the IRS system has done all of its checks and balances and it's ready to send them out. And it's not doing all of our filings all in one batch.
No.
It's doing them when it's ready to do them.
Yeah.
So I can't, you see, this is where these questions are so difficult for me to answer truthfully.
Yeah.
I can't say truthfully anyone's going to get their recoupments on a certain month or a certain week. All I can say is, if you look at the timelines that the IRS works to, it's between 6 and 9 months from when the OID is filed.
Yes.
In some situations, it can be a lot faster than that. So if we're filing OIDs now in April, realistically, if you just made it conservative and said on average it's 6 months, now we're talking October.
Yeah.
But some people may get their recoupments before then, because some people have had recoupments through in 3 months. See, I can't determine how quickly the IRS is going to process.
No.
There are, and I've documented this in my reports, there are time expectations for each step.
And we know what they are.
But we don't know
like
that the IRS is going to stay with those timelines each step. I don't want to give people answers when they come back in 6 months and say, you said on that interview that recoupments are going to be 6 months, and now we're 6 months and 2 days, and I haven't had mine. You were lying in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not what we want, guys. We want it through yesterday. If you don't understand that already, then you really need to get your head around that. We're looking to build the Freedom Plan, and we can't build the Freedom Plan without your donations from every member's recoupment. That is what we need to push the Freedom Plan forward. We want to be coming on these Q&As talking about questions to do with energy, questions to do with water, questions to do with private communication. That's what we want to be doing, not questions about recoupments. So
if you look at the action, not the words, right? A wise man once told me, if you want to evaluate something, look at the actions, not the words.
Yeah.
Because words are pretty cheap, yeah? I mean, look at how many liars there are in every government. They lie perpetually about everything. Words are pretty cheap. So you can only gauge what's going on by action, what is actually evidenced to have happened. Now, in 2025, we created grantor trusts. Action, you can prove it.
Yeah.
People got EIN numbers. Facts, action. We filed 1099 OID for those grantor trusts. Fact, action. Wages and tax transcripts came in. Fact, action.
Yep.
Sabotage happened in September. Fact. What did we do about the sabotage? We tried to replace the original trustees with a new trustee.
Yep.
And we tried that for 3 months. We tried everything that I could think of to achieve that. And it didn't work. So then we created new grantor trusts, because that's the only way we could do it. The other thing is that the filing license had been compromised. So the ERO license had been compromised by the fraud identity reports filed by the saboteurs.
Yeah.
So we had to correct that.
All of the ERO had to shut that down, didn't he? As far as I can remember. So our ERO at the time, not only was the license compromised, but because of the compromise and because he obviously had other businesses as well, not just what he's doing here, had to completely shut that down and start again.
We had to wipe the slate clean and start again. Yep. Every single grantor trust, we had to communicate to all the existing members what was going on. Many people were receiving all sorts of false information from the saboteurs.
Yeah.
So a lot of the members didn't know who to believe. There was a huge amount of misinformation, malicious misinformation that was being put out.
Yeah.
And we had to navigate through that And then we had the IRS shutdown. So from November through to January, mid-November to mid-January, the IRS don't process new filings. And we had a job to get the grantor trusts as efficiently in that window between November and January. The IRS doesn't close down and everyone goes on holiday, but they just don't do certain things. They prioritize other things in that window. They don't prioritize what we're doing in that sort of 2-month window. So we had to wait for the IRS to reopen in mid-January before we could crack on and re-establish all the infrastructure. And now we're in April and we're now filing the 1099 OIDs. This is very, very similar to what happened in 2025. It's a kind of a deja vu event.
It is.
We started in early 2025. We went through all these different steps because in 2025, we had to replace previous trusts that were set up in 2024. They weren't the right type of trust.
No.
So that's when we started using the grantor trust in early 2025. I did all my deep research on what type of trust should we be using at the end of 2024. And then in early 2025, we started using the grantor trust. That generated the wages and tax transcripts that came in between June of 25 and September of 25 before the sabotage event happened. So we're on the same timeline as we were on in 2025, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm now expecting wages and tax transcripts in anywhere from June onwards, same as we had last year.
Yeah. And then we can start filing the 1041s once we've got that side of things all in play. We can't do that until we've got the confirmation on the wages and tax transcript.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. So that's a status update. That is a timing update, guys. The last category here is just to do, and I think this is a great segue into Saturday, Ian, as well, is just engagement, costs and challenges, people accessing the protocols. There's a lot of people that can see the value in this, but maybe they're in a difficult situation. So first question, which is to do with just hardship access. Is there a Envoy specific path for retired members or those in severe financial hardship who can't avoid or can't afford, the full upfront donations?
Well, there is, but it's probably not exactly what that questioner is asking for. So right now, we don't have a deal for people that have got a hardship problem.
No.
What we have is this is what I'm going to be talking about on this Saturday's webinar. We have a way of reducing the initial donation to get this program off the ground and increasing the back end, which you don't lose, because we've already explained that you don't lose the back end donation to the Old Souls Nation. No. You get it back again, you recoup it, but that gives us cash flows earlier. It gives our organization more cash flow to use earlier, which is what we want for the Freedom Plan. So you can reduce the initial donation required to get this program off the ground and increase the back end without losing that back end donation to the Old Souls Nation. What you can also do is you can refer people to our webinars.
Yeah. And
you're going to receive a credit of £100 in your digital wallet for every referral that attends a webinar. So if you're just easy numbers, if your donation to get our flagship 3 protocols set up was $3,000, just for easy numbers, if you could introduce 10 people at £100 per person, now you're going to need to find 2,000.
Yep, makes sense.
If you could introduce 20 people, now you're going to find 1,000. If you can introduce 30 people, you can now enroll without any cost at all, without any donation cost at all. So that's all we can do at the moment. I would like to do more than that. but we're not in a position because of the sabotage
No.
to roll this out without any initial donation to
No.
hundreds of thousands of people that would roll up and want to do it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the cash flow coming in to be able to finance all of that additional processing. So again, you see a lot of people, and I've seen lots of comments on interviews I've done with Mel Clark and questions that have come in on webinars. It's like, yeah, it's amazing, Ian, but why does anyone have to make a donation up front? The reason is because we've got an infrastructure to finance.
We have.
And because we've suffered a sabotage event, we don't have the budget that we had before. Not only was our reserves stolen by Amy Sanger, but we didn't get the 20% of the recoupments, which could have been financing the nation, that would be more than enough to provide an option for people in hardship. Yeah. So the saboteurs, you know, they virtually sunk our ship.
They did.
You know, it was only because we were determined that our ship didn't completely sink. We had to limp it into port and we had to patch it up again before we could sail out again. If the saboteurs had had their way, our ship would be at the bottom of the ocean right now. Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not. And I'm thankful for that. And I hope you members are as well, because we've got every intention of delivering. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about where to start. With the overwhelming amount of information, where is the most effective place for a new member to start their journey?
Well, that's for me, that's one of the best questions that we've had.
Yeah.
Because I've been working on the Ian Clifford avatar, and I have a very high expectation that it's going to answer people's questions. So based upon all of my knowledge base, research papers, webinar presentations, Q&As, and other knowledge, other papers that I've loaded up that didn't come from me, as some research papers that didn't even, you know, I didn't write, but they are relevant to what we're doing. And with the assistance of an AI that knows what it's looking for, when you come and have a meeting with the Ian Clifford avatar and you ask it a question, it should be like asking me a question like we're doing here.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, for those people who want to evidence that what is being said to them is true, it's going to send the evidence. So you're going to ask it a question about something, and it's going to give you the answer, and then it's going to send you the evidence that that answer is true.
Yeah.
Look at these references. This evidence is that the answer is true, and if you want to go and look into those references, you can. And it's every time you have an interaction with the avatar, whatever you ask it, it's going to follow up with the evidence to back up whatever it's told you.
It's going to be the end to my Q&As with you, Ian.
Well, I mean, I think still people will ask questions generically, like
I think so.
You know, I think webinar questions will always be there. So.
But it's going to be a huge help and a huge resource, and it's going to simplify things. And as that question, you know, pointed out, with the overwhelming amount of information, it's going to help with overwhelm too, because you're going to have one centralized source that you can go to for all the answers. The answers will be accurate. You'll have the information to back that up as well. I'm super excited about the avatar. Okay, let's move on. We've got, I think we've got one or two more final questions. We've answered the one to do with upfront donations. The next one, really, we can't answer on the Q&A, guys. You would need to be talking to your consultant, one of the consultant team about this. What is the specific donation amount required to join the organization and access the void mortgage steps?
It's tailored. So what we can say is that if there's enough interest from the membership and prospects looking to join, we will roll out the AI and we'll roll out the avatar for free. There won't be a cost for those. That's the tool that you're going to use to write all the documents up and help you to, you know, submit your documents so that you can void the mortgage. The flagship, which I call the Monopoly Game Changer, which is Envoy Protocol, Asset Fortress Protocol, and Currency Creation, comes as a package. That is our flagship, which, in my opinion, everybody should be pursuing that first, unless they're in business and they might want to pursue the Commerce Protocol. So to keep it simple, people need to study how do those three protocols work together, and that's what the webinar is about on Saturday.
Yeah,
so that's really, if you know, to hone it down, to filter it down into what do people need to know about to figure out whether they like this or not. It's those three protocols and how do they work together. That's it. Everything else we're doing is add-ons, but the core foundational protocols are the three: Envoy, Asset Fortress, Currency Creation. Put those three together and it should solve just about every problem that people are experiencing. Just those three protocols working together.
Yeah, it really does. Okay, final question then, Ian. What are the requirements to become an ambassador or quote unquote advocate for the Republic of Old Souls to help others escape financial slavery?
Well, you can be an ambassador without being an advocate. So you can get the webinar link. You can send that out through your social media. You can send it to people individually. You can send it on however you send your messages. You can send that link out, and that's an ambassador. And then if you want to become an advocate, which you don't even need to be a member or an envoy to be an advocate, you can just go to the platform and you can sign up for it. And there will be an avatar for that as well. There will be an advocate avatar that answers all the advocate type questions, how to do things, and more importantly, what is going on. So the avatar is what's this all about? How does it work? Why does it work? And then if you're doing it, another avatar is going to be explaining what is going on with your file, with your situation, your processes.
Yeah.
So you have
a process.
And I think that honestly is the best we can do to deliver information that is tailored to your own situation. Is the two avatars, the learning avatar and the processing avatar.
Okay, perfect. So let's wrap this up with a call to action, because I like to do these. So what are your next steps? We've answered your questions. What do you now need to do? Well, I would certainly suggest and recommend that you register for this coming Saturday's webinar. This session is going to cover the Monopoly Game Changer protocol. As Ian said, this is our flagship of protocols in a bundle, including a zero upfront entry point for people who may be struggling to find the financial resources to get started. And we're going to show you exactly how you can do that. You can't afford to miss this one, guys. You really can't. The second thing that I would encourage you to do is just verify that you're up to date in your platform. If you're already moving through the protocols, I've said it before, I'll say it again, we move at the speed of the most prepared members. We don't wait for stragglers. We don't wait for people who haven't updated their details. If you have not been checking your platform for important updates or outstanding elements that we need from you, we can't be held responsible for delays in your personal process. Just saying. Said it before, and I'll continue to say the same. And then the final thing that I would say is, as Ian's mentioned, use your personal referral link to share this Saturday's upcoming webinar. Every new member, every new family that we bring into the Old Souls Nation makes our collective positioning stronger. And that is what we want. 500,000, 500,000 envoys for the Freedom Plan. That is what we want. You are the general executor, as Ian's mentioned. It's time to stop asking the system for permission and time to start giving instructions. And you can do that using the protocols that we have. So let me just quickly, Ian, bring up the website, roswebinars.is. If you go to this address, you can register for Saturday's webinar if you haven't done so already for the Monopoly Game Changer. Your referral link to pass that out will be in your members area. Typically, when you log in, the very first page, there'll be a huge pop-up there. You scroll to the bottom, there will be a link that you can register for Saturday's webinar if it makes it easier for you. But underneath that, at the very bottom, will be your personal referral link that you can pass to other people. So that's all I've got to say, Ian. Final thoughts from you before we wrap it up.
Well, my final thoughts are that, you know, I just want to get the word out there. You know, I know that if we could introduce this information and these opportunities and these processes that we have available to a much wider audience, we would certainly be recruiting and getting along much faster towards the goal that we have, which is a nation of 500,000.
Yeah.
Now, I had a question a couple of days ago. Somebody said, "Is that very realistic to get 500,000?" And I said, "I don't see any reason why not, because if you look at the what's the nation in Croatia called? So the name has just drifted from my memory.
Liberland.
Liberland, yeah. So if you look at Liberland, they've got nearly 2 million citizens of their nation. And what they're doing is nothing. It doesn't even come anywhere close to what we are working on and what we're planning to deliver. Nothing close. And they've got like 2 million around the world that have signed up as a citizen. So why can't we get 500,000 when our proposition, in my opinion, is a lot more powerful in what it can actually achieve for the envoys of the nation.
Yeah. So we need your support, guys. We genuinely do. We want your support. We need your support. We need to get the message out there. We can't do this without you. You know, this is a nation, and as a nation, we need to band together to be able to do that. So we will leave that thought with you. Register for the webinar. Get the word out as well with your referral link. And Ian and I will see you on Saturday, 10 a.m. sharp. Looking forward to it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now, guys.